I know Roshni from, I do some work with the Greater Toronto Airport Authority, and lots of project management around there. It's ongoing. It's an amazing place. I mean, if you think about it, our airport last year in 2015, 41 million people went through the airport. You talk about having to figure out logistics and management and everything else and something like that. Within the next 5 years, Pearson Airport, there'll be 50 million people per year going through the airport. And how fast are they growing? Every week, 37,000 more people go through the airport than the previous week. That's how fast they're growing. That's a little bit crazy. So Roshni, you got your hands full. So I'm going to talk to you about a few things today. And I love this metaphor. It's a great metaphor. It's all about how do you tap into your huge potential. And I think, Ralph Waldo Emerson said it really, really well when he said, what lies beneath you, what lies before you, are small compared to what lies within you. What's inside of you? How do you tap into that huge potential inside of you? Really, what I really want to focus on today is you. It all starts with you. And who, and that's just basically connecting with people. Connect with people. I mean, let me ask you this question in this room. Does anybody work with people on an ongoing basis? Yes? Yeah, and you know what? It's a good thing most of the time. Not all the time. But, I'm going to talk a little bit about that today, where we came from. I mean, we've been around on this planet Earth for about 3 million years. So I'm going to get a little bit into that. And then the power of give. Give as an attitude. How do you impact people? How do you impact organizations? And the fact of the matter is, as long as we're here on this planet, everybody in this room, you're going to have to deal with people. And if you can do it a certain way and you have a certain attitude towards that, what sort of impact you're going to have with those people. Now, I'll tell you a little story. It's about a great Cherokee chief. And this Cherokee chief, he lived in Wyoming. And one evening he was sitting there, it was a beautiful evening, he was sitting in front of a fire with his grandson. And there were stars all over the sky. And he looked at his grandson and he said, there's a great battle raging inside of me. And it's a battle between two wolves. And the first wolf is an evil wolf. He's greedy and arrogant, very, very righteous, and he spreads lies and deceit. And this wolf thinks scarcity, and this wolf is a taker. The second wolf is a good wolf. He's honest and he's humble and he's happy and he's grateful. And this wolf has great vision and great wisdom. And this wolf thinks abundance. And this wolf's a giver. So the two of them sit there for a while, pondering what the great chief, the grandfather, had just said to his grandson. And finally, after a little while, the grandson broke the silence. And he looked at his grandfather, the great chief, and he said, which wolf wins? The grandfather, the great chief, looked down at his grandson and he says, it's the one you feed. The one you feed. Which wolf are you feeding every day? How are you looking at the outlook every day? How do you treat other people every day? How do you look at it from that perspective? Is there anything more important than you? And some people will look at this and go, well, that's kind of a selfish way to look at it. Me first. I totally disagree. You got to take care of you first. It's all about you first. And, a few years ago, I was sitting with my wife, and Susie looked at me, and I said, I'll take care of you. And she stopped me in mid-sentence, and she said, no. That's not what it's about. You take care of you for me. I'll take care of me for you. I just went, wow, that's pretty good. That's what it's about. You got to get really good at you. It is about you. It starts with you. I'll talk a lot about that today. Back to the airlines. Think about when you get on an airplane. What's the first thing that they do as they're going through the safety check? They don't say, hey, take care of the little kid, take care of the infant beside you, take care of the elderly people beside you. What do they say? Take care of you. Take care of you first. So that, and as project managers, come on. You got to take care of you. You got to be good for your team. I was talking to you earlier. You've got 25 people. That's a lot to manage. You guys got a lot going on an ongoing basis. But you got to take care of you first. You got to get really, really good at you. That's where it all starts. It's not selfish. The greatest gift you can give to you is being the best you. The greatest gift you can give to your community is being the best you. The greatest gift you can give to your career, to your friends, to your family is being the best you. It's not selfish. It all starts with you. That's why I like this metaphor. How do you tap into this huge potential? Because an iceberg about 10% is above the surface, about 90% below the surface. And stuff happens to all of us. Life's 10% what happens to you, 90% how you react. Because, hey, welcome to life. Stuff happens. But you got to tap into, you got to hit that potential. It's all about you. Now, we talk to ourselves quite a bit, right? We do. As a matter of fact, you're having a conversation with yourself right now. You are. Who talks to you more than you? Does anybody talk to you more than you? Come on. You're having another conversation with yourself right now. And if you want to mess with people, this is kind of fun. Walk up to somebody and say, hey, how's that conversation going? And here's the deal. 100% of the time, you're right. You're right. We're always having conversations. What are those conversations like? And how many thoughts do you think the average person has per day? How many thoughts? What do you think? What do you think? How many thoughts? It's a lot. What do you think? Throw some numbers at me.
More than 100?
Hundreds? Millions. Okay, millions big. How about 30 to 50,000 thoughts a day? That's a lot. That's a lot. You're talking to yourself again. You're having another conversation with yourself. We have lots of conversations. What are you programming into your personal computer? What are you programming into you? How are those conversations going? We're going to have negative thoughts. We all go there. The key is you want to have lots of positive thoughts. Hang around with positive people. Get connected into it. And here's the thing. I'm not saying you have to jump up and down. You have your own style. You have your own way of traveling and things like that. I'm not saying you have to go crazy and things like that. But here's the thing. If you can't get excited about you, if you can't get excited about your service, if you can't get excited about what you do, why should I? Why should I? It starts with you. You got to be a little bit juiced. Again, it's your style, but you got to be juiced. You got to be pumped. You got to be passionate. And then guess what? It gets contagious. It's powerful from that standpoint. As a matter of fact, how many people have ever been to Pike's Market in Seattle? What's really amazing about Pike's Market? Fish throwing. Yeah. There's lots of fish throwing going on. But here's coming from Nova Scotia, you're throwing fish at each other all the time anyways, right? So you'd be really used to in Pike's Market. Pike's Market is amazing. If you're in Seattle, at any point in time, go there. It's a fish market, by the way. How many people go to a fish market to get their mojo flowing in the morning? I know I don't. It's not the prettiest place, sorry. It's not the prettiest place in the world. It's not the best smelling place in the world. But guess what? When you go into Pike's Market, they're excited. They're passionate. They're pumped up. Who chooses your attitude every day? Who chooses your attitude? Your kids, your neighbors, the person who just cut you off in traffic? Your wife. Yeah, your wife. You were talking about that earlier. Your wife. Okay, occasionally that may be true. But it's the whole thing you do, right? You do. You do. It's the iceberg. It's the 10%, and then you react to it, right? That's the way it works. Well, they've decided to choose their attitude in Pike's Market. So when you walk in there, they do this magical thing. Hey, this is a novel concept. Engage the customer. Create a great experience for the customer. So they're pumped and they're passionate. They love what they're doing. And you know what the power of passion and loving what you do is? It's contagious. It's contagious because it's genuine. When it's genuine, it's contagious. Now, you know what's right across the street from Pike's Market? Most of you will recognize this. The original Starbucks. The original Starbucks. And I don't know if Howard Schultz and Starbucks borrowed it from Pike's Market or Pike's Market borrowed it from Starbucks, but they get it. Create a great customer experience. People are willing to pay more, aren't they? People are going in for the experience. How do you create that experience in your environment? How do you make a difference in your environment every single day? They know what it is. That's a great book, by the way. This is a really, really good book. This is about Pike's Market. It's called Fish. Fantastic, easy read. 100 pages, lots of pictures, but it's all about choosing your attitude. It's all about being in the present, which is really, really powerful. And how do you create a great culture? They get how to create a great culture. So, Onward by Howard Schultz, another great book. If you want to read a book, or get the audio. I mean, I'm big on audio. I believe, you know, when you're in your car, I just think your car's a university on wheels. Tap into it. Listen to audio. See, we have these wonderful senses. The more you can tap into your senses, the more you're going to learn. So listen, see, connect from different ways. The more you can tap in, the more you retain. The Batman in here, that's me. I like to get dressed up as Batman, by the way. It's a big thing. I don't do it all the time. And I know in this picture right there that I'm the only one in a costume, but it was Halloween that day, okay? I don't just get dressed up as the Batman every day. But the small girl in the picture, that's my daughter. Sorry?
How about PMI Symposium?
What, get dressed up as the Batman? I will next time. I'll come as the Batman. I'm happy to do that anytime. You guys bring me back, I'll be the Batman, okay? I have a Batman costume. So this particular costume had the 7-foot wingspan. It was really cool. Big muscular vest, utility belt, had it all going on. So I used to rent this. So a few years after this picture, I decided one time I'd rent it on Halloween, get dressed up as the Batman, and then drive my kids to school as the Batman. So at that point in time, we were living in the Lawrence Park area. On that day, I got dressed up in my Batman costume. My daughter was a fairy princess. My son was a Ninja Turtle. So we all got dressed up. We got into the car. By the way, at that point in time, I had a black BMW. I had a Batmobile. I had the Batmobile. I had the Bat costume. I had it all going on. So we all piled into the car. We drove up to my kids' school. We got to the school. I thought I'd just let them out and then I could drive to work. But no way. The principal was just happened to be hanging out there. A couple of teachers, they go, "Hey, we got the Batman here. Would you come in for a while?" I said, "I'd be happy to come in for a while." So I went into the school. I figured I'd be there for just a short time. 2 hours later, I went into each class and did my Batman thing and hung out with all the kids and told Batman stories and superhero stories. I mean, this was cooler than having the police and the firemen. It was having a superhero, right? So a couple hours, and I'm pretty late for work now. So I have to go, and as I said before, we were living in the Lawrence Park area in Toronto. I went back to the Batmobile, and at that point in time, I was working in Markham. So I had to make up some time. So I jumped in the Batmobile, I got on the 401, and I was speeding excessively. I got pulled over by the OPP. Here I am sitting in my Batmobile, my full Bat costume on, and officer pulls me over. And by the way, I would have been towed these days. I was going pretty fast at this point in time. It's at the 401 just before you get to the 404. So here I am parked. The officer parked behind me, gets out of his car. I'm checking him out. I'm looking in my rear view mirror, my side view mirror. I'm checking the officer. I hope he's going to crack a smile or something. He's looking pretty serious. So the officer walks up to the side of my car. I pop down the window. He looks in and he goes, "Batman." "Where are you going?" I looked at him and I said, "Gotham City." I thought that was pretty funny. He didn't. So he said, "You know what, Batman? You're pretty funny, but you're going to be getting a pretty big ticket today." And I said, "Officer, can I just tell you my story?" And he goes, "This should be pretty good. I've heard some pretty good stories in my time. Go for it, Batman." So I started to tell him about where I was. I'd been at the school. I was with my kids, and and he goes, I've got 2 young kids. So, the wheels are going on, the good and the bad wheels are going, okay, how do I get out of this? How do I get out of this? And then all of a sudden he says, "I've got some kids." I'm going, this is good, this is good. Common ground. Barriers go down. Always find the common ground. So he looks at me and he says, "You know what? I'm going to let you go." I'm kind of, the good wheels are going, this is good, this is a good day. And he says, "But before you go, Batman, you got to take off the mask." I looked at the officer and I said, "Sorry, I can't reveal my true identity." Again, I thought that was pretty funny. He didn't. He didn't. So he let me go. And by the way, I still had my mask on. So he let me go. I drove up to the office, and I got to the office, and I decided to make a grand entrance. So I parked away fairly far in the parking lot, walked across the parking lot. Now, this company I was working for, about 600-700 people, had security. I walked right in. I tell you, you want to get through security, put on the Batman costume, right? Or the Batwoman, be a superhero. They let you, especially on Halloween. I went into the building, and I was still in the full costume. I didn't go to my office right away. I walked around and I messed with people because I knew who they were. They didn't know who I was. We had some fun with it. That evening, I went out trick-or-treating with my kids as the Batman. Big hit in the neighborhood. Did not get this picture. Wish I had. There was a full moon, so I had to get up on the roof of the house and do one of these. So I did a little bit of that. Wife wasn't too happy with that. The kids loved it, so we did that. Why do I tell this story? First of all, don't take yourself too seriously. Don't take yourself too seriously. Take what you do very seriously. Take what you do very seriously. But you got to have some fun. Let your hair down from time to time. Now, I was just, last weekend I was on the moon, actually. I spent a little bit of time with Neil Armstrong. But seriously, I was down in Washington. My daughter's doing a PhD down at the University of Maryland. So we were down visiting her, and she knows I like costumes. I like Batman costumes, okay? But I heard, being a NASA, commander or whatever is a pretty good thing to do too. So my wife and I were in the Smithsonian Institute, the Air and Space Museum, and they just happened to have NASA commander costumes. So she knows what I'm like, and I just looked over and I said, I think they're selling those. She goes, no, they're not. They're not. No, I'm pretty sure they're selling those costumes. I got to get one. That's a cool costume. So I go over and I said, "Are you selling these?" And they said, "Well, as a matter of fact, we are." And so I bought one of the costumes, and well, first of all, I said, "Can I try it on?" You go, "Well, no, you can't try it on." I said, I'll try it on right here. I'll just pop it, over my clothes, and She said, okay, we'll let you do that. So I got the costume on. I thought it looked pretty good, so I kept it on. So I cruised around, and it was pretty crowded in the museum. So I kept it on, and I cruised around the museum for the next hour. I think I took about 100 pictures. People were saying, they're kind of looking at me, is this guy a real astronaut? I didn't say I was. I didn't say I wasn't. So I got all sorts of pictures with kids, and I had some fun with it. It was good fun, and I still have the costume. So it's kind of, again, you got to let your hair down. You got to have some fun. One of the greatest philosophers that ever lived. I mean, Aristotle, Plato. There's this guy named Theodore Geisel. Anybody know who Theodore Geisel is? Dr. Seuss, Dr. Seuss. And one of the greatest books ever written by Dr. Seuss. Dr. Seuss is brilliant. What a brilliant philosopher. This book right here, anybody read this book, Oh, the Places You'll Go? It's brilliant. It's the #1 book given to graduating college and university students in the U.S. It's a great book on life. Now this is a little bit scary. I've memorized the book. So that's where I spend most of my time, memorizing Dr. Seuss books. But it is a brilliant book, and I like to give it away too. And I think if you're going to give it away to people, if you're going to give away books, and when I meet with people, you want to find out what's important to them, what's important to those people. So I always ask and just qualify people, and that's important in any business. Qualify in whatever you happen to do, certainly in project management. But I always ask them, are you a reader? Do you like to read? Yes, I do. But I don't have a lot of time. And I have young kids. Boy, do I have a good book for you. And I think if you're going to give a book to somebody, put something in it. Write something in it. So, make sure, put something like, life is a choice, choose wisely. Say you'll love page. Show that you've been listening to the person or connecting with the person. But this book, how it starts, and it starts off like this. It says, congratulations, today is your day. You're off to great places, you're off and away. You have brains in your head, you have feet in your shoes, you can steer yourself any direction you choose. Seuss gets it, he gets it. It's all about choice. It's all about choice. And he goes on in the book and he talks about rejection, fear, failure, indispensable prerequisites for success, as long as you learn from them. When you learn from it, it's just called experience. I mean, bring it on. There's nothing wrong with failure. Sometimes failure is one of the greatest teachers. We need adversity. Adversity is a good teacher, as long as you learn from it. And at the end of the book, he says, yes, you will succeed. Yes, you will indeed. 98.75% guaranteed. It's not 100%, but you can get pretty close. That's powerful. What a great gift. Give away books, but do qualify. Do you like to read? No, well then don't send them a book. Find out what's important to them. And we're going to talk, my newest book. I'm not going to sit here and promote my book. Yes, I am. Today. It's called G3, and it's all about tapping into your potential. So the 3 G's in the book, the first G is how do you be the best you? And it's all about setting goals, building your brand, discipline, that side of it. Part 2 in the book is the gift of influence, and that's just leadership. Part 3 in the book is all about, most people call it networking. I call it net giving. It's the attitude of what can I do for you? How do I make a difference for you? Bite-sized pieces, easy stuff to read, pretty powerful. A lot of what I'm talking about today. Now, I'm going to share with you what I think is probably the greatest rule for abundance and success in life. And I think if you really follow this, you can have a huge impact. Again, at your work, in your life, in your community, and everything that you do. And it's not that complicated, but it's not that easy either. I mean, the simple things sometimes are the toughest things to really nail, really make a difference. And really, all it comes down to is give. And when I say give, it's the attitude of giving. It's the attitude of what can I do for you. You see, if you go into a situation with individuals, or you go into a situation with a team, and your attitude is what can I do for you, how do you think it's going to go? I know how it's going to go. It's going to go really, really well. Most people go into most situations with the attitude of, what can you do for me? That's called take. That's take. It's got to be give. Send it out, send it out. The more people you help be successful in life, the more successful you will be. Send it there. And by the way, when you're networking, when you're connecting with people, don't always go like this and expect, boom, it's coming back from you. Boom, it's coming back from you. Boom, it's coming back from you. Sometimes I go like that and it comes back from there. I'll go there, it will come back from there. You just got to put it out there. You got to make an impact. And people say all the time to me, if I'm give, how do I get? I'm not saying you don't get, but you've got to earn it. It takes time. You got to put in the time. You got to make a difference. And you see the power of giving. Giving starts the receiving process. Put it out, it comes back. Put it out, it comes back. It will come back again and again and again. Now let me share some of the gives with you. Because there's very obvious ones that we all know about. And then there's other gives that may not be as obvious, but frankly, they're even more powerful. And here's some of them right here. And the obvious ones would be time, charity, money. Those are gives we all get, right? We do on a pretty regular basis. But here's some pretty good ones. Smile, laugh, please, thank you, collaboration, acknowledgement, compliment people, but it's got to be genuine. If it's not genuine, don't do it. Don't do it. People read through you. It's got to be genuine. You got to mean it. You have a team. You got to make a difference. You got to make an impact. People are watching you. They're watching you. It's not just what you say, it's what you do. It's your actions. If you're not doing it, if you're talking about it and not doing it, hey, they're not going to buy into it. There's lots of great gives here, like sharing, being present. And when I talk about being present, be present in the present. See, there's a great saying. It goes, the past is a history, the future is a mystery, today is a gift. That's why we call it the present. You see, the past, it's already happened. That's your experience. We learn from it. And the future, you got to plan for the future because you can't hit a target you can't see. You got to have a target. You got to have a goal. You got to have some metrics. You got to have some measurements. You got to have accountability. You got to have people around you, mentors, coaches, people who are going to make a difference for you, and you'll make a difference for them. Be present. See, the only thing you control is right now. Right now, you got to be present in the present, focused, and listen. And if you have a hard time with this one, just look in the mirror. Your anatomy will help you with this one, okay? You're born with 2 ears and 1 mouth. Use them proportionately. As a matter of fact, double up on the ear quotient. Listen 4 times as often as you speak. See, most people think when they're talking that they control the situation. Au contraire, that's not true. The person who asks good questions or great questions controls the situation. Ask good questions and listen. Get people to talk about their favorite subject. What do you think their favorite subject is? Themselves. Themselves. Get to know what's important to them. What's important to them. If somebody comes up to me and says, how are Stephanie and Jeffrey, my kids? They got me. They got me. You got to take it to the next level. You owe it to yourself. You owe it to your organization. What's important to the people you work with? Get to know them. Ask them questions. Get them to talk about their favorite subject themselves. Ask good questions and listen. Be authenticity. Build from there. That's the net giving. And I'm not saying that it's not networking. It is hard work. But the more you can put out, the more you can connect. That's the power of the give. That's the give. You want to build it, you want to build it up from your standpoint too. I'm big on eagles. I think it's a great metaphor for people of wisdom, the people who soar, the people that make a difference. They're the eagles. And if you want to be an eagle, you got to find the eagles and you got to ask the eagles, how did they get there? In your profession, what you're doing, find the people. And that's why this is so powerful, belonging to associations. Because there's so many eagles in this room, people who have done it before. Ask them how they had that success. And by the way, if people aren't willing to help you, they're not eagles. They're not eagles. Eagles get, give. Eagles give. So ask them. If they're not going to help you, go to the next one. Go to the next one. There's lots of eagles. There's tons of eagles in this room. Go to the experts. Anything you want to be, see, do, or have, people are already doing it, or they're really, really good at it, or they've done it in the past. Go ask them. Go to the experts. Go to the people who have done it before. You've heard this before. The Kielburgers are amazing at this, me to we, the whole we thing. How do you go from me to we? That's the power. The power is people. The power is team. Me becomes we when you invite others to join. Invite others to join. We are pack animals. We are pack animals. It's a fact. I mean, for 3 million years on the plains of Africa, we're hunters and gatherers. And we hung around in small packs because that's the only way you could survive. That's how our DNA, that's how you're wired. Everybody in this room is wired that way. 10,000 years ago, we had the agricultural revolution. Guess what? Then they could feed lots of people so you didn't have to live in small packs anymore. That's the difference. So really, we've only had about 10,000 years of this. That's actually a tiny little bit of our existence. We're pack animals. Find others, hang out with others, huddle with others, hug others. We're pack animals. Everybody in this room, we're pack animals. That's what we are. I'm not saying that's what we are directly, but that's what we are. Community, that's where it comes down to too, the power of community. Whether that's community inside your organization, outside your organization, we're better as a group. We're better collaborating. And certainly in this world today, we know with social media, it's very, very easy to do. At the same time, it's easy to shut out too. I mean, people would have different thoughts on, whether it's LinkedIn or everybody in the room on LinkedIn. Is it pretty well everybody? If you're not, you should be. You should be. I mean, LinkedIn, and you have your own community that you tap into or whatever. Facebook, Facebook's interesting. I'm on Facebook. I can't say that everybody who's a friend of mine on Facebook is an actual friend, but that's what we do these days. You become instant friends. It's kind of interesting. It's an interesting perspective. Community is the power of we, though, and it's how we're wired. It's in our DNA. I think, and I don't really like to put it in this sort of way, but I think people are like bank accounts. You got to continuously make deposits into people's personal bank accounts. The more you put deposits into their bank accounts, then when you ask them, could you help me with that? Could you do this? Could you do that? Of course, look at the balance sheet. Look at all the deposits you've made into the person's personal bank account. You have to continually be making those deposits into the people around you, again, in your community and places like that. Then when you ask, of course, they're going to say, hey, be happy to help you. The average human attention span. What do you think the average human attention span is? What do you think it is? What, sorry? A few seconds, yeah? Yeah. 5 seconds or so, yeah? Anybody else? A few seconds. Sorry, what did you say again? I can't remember. And I can't, no. It's pretty quick. Average human attention span, think about this. Advertisers spend billions and billions of dollars on commercials. Average commercial, how long? 15 to 30 seconds. Okay, so the average human attention span that we can focus in on one thing, 15 to 30 seconds. My point here is when you're connecting with people initially, I'm not saying don't get to know them because you should, but remember this, they're not going to focus. And by the way, you guys are talking to yourself right now. You're having another conversation, right? We're continuously having conversations with ourselves. The average human attention span is very, very short. Meaning you do have to figure out what your brand me, your elevator speech, people will call it an elevator speech because if you step on an elevator You have a very short time to tell people what you're doing. And people will say this too. You'll get this all day today. What do you do? Where are you from? What company are you working for? And some of us are really good at saying, here's what I do. Here's what I'm all about it. A lot of the time, other people will go on, and 5 minutes later, you have no idea what they do, and you're actually wondering if they know what they do. Right? So you really got to get this down. We spend a lot of time, my organization spends a lot of time with companies and individuals on their elevator speech. It's your brand. It's your brand. You got to get good at your brand. You got to be really comfortable with your brand. So what do you say? What's your elevator speech? And it is, your brand is on social media. Your brand is both virtual and verbal. And here's the one thing that travels with you everywhere you go. Your brand. Your brand. It goes. You have your own personal brand. You have a couple brands because you have your brand, and then you have the corporate brand or your company's brand. You've got to be really good at both. You've got to be able to articulate in both verbal and virtually. And I keep it simple. And Roshni said at the beginning, I'm a pretty simple person, so I just use my name. And it really comes down to touch, inspire, and move. I touch, inspire, and move people to take action on their passion and their goals. That's what I do. That's what our company does. That's what we do. And that's both our what and our why. Your why is really important because your why is your purpose. Great companies, the Apples and the Starbucks and so forth, great companies, they have the why. People get the why. You got to take it. You got to have the what. You got to have the why. The why is the purpose. The why is what drives you. The why is what gets people really excited. The why is why you go to work every day. That's what gets you up in the morning. That's what gets you excited. Ask great questions, get great answers. You got to ask good questions. And it's, the ask part is from a leadership standpoint, from a management standpoint, projects, etc. It is asking great questions. Because here's the thing about great questions. And say somebody in your group has just made a presentation. You could go at this from two different ways. You could say to them, how do you think that went? Now, is there anybody in this room who's a tougher critic than you on yourself? I mean, we are tough on ourselves, right? We're tough critics on ourselves. We're usually tougher on ourselves than other people. So why not ask the questions, let them tell you how they think it went. And when they tell you how they think it went, that's a give. Because when somebody's talking to you and they tell you this is how it should be, rather than them saying, how do you think this should be? How do you think that went? That's a great give. Isn't it more powerful when it comes from that person? Really good leaders ask really good questions. Great leaders ask great questions. It's about asking the right questions. See, I can get you to tell me what I want to say to you by asking the right question. And if it's coming from you, that's a lot more powerful. Ask good questions and listens. I'm big on milkshakes. I love chocolate milkshakes. I'll do strawberry milkshakes too, but when I'm traveling, I do a fair bit of traveling, spend a lot of time at hotels. I like to check out hotels' service. I like to see how they deal with customers and so forth. And certain hotels, like if I happen to be at a Ritz or a Four Seasons, down one of my clients who's a great client to have his sandals, and they just get it. They very good service, really get it. So I get to go down and hang at Sandals, speak for a few hours and stay for a week and take my wife. That's a good gig. That's a really good gig. You were talking about wives earlier. That's a good one. That works well. But when I go to hotels, I tend to go into the hotel. I'll go up to my room and I'll usually call room service and I'll order a chocolate shake. Now, a lot of the time they don't have, I know it's not on the menu. There's no chocolate shakes on the menu. So I'll call up for room service and I'll just say, do you have any chocolate shakes? And they say, sorry, it's not on the menu. I said, well, could you help me for a minute? I'll say, of course I could. Well, do you have any chocolate sauce or any chocolate powder? Yes, we do. Do you have any chocolate ice cream or vanilla ice cream? Yes, we do. Do you have any milk? Yes, we do. Do you have a blender? Yes, we do. Could I please have a chocolate milkshake? and it works a lot of the time. And I've gone down and I've made chocolate milkshakes. I've made chocolate milkshakes with managers. I've made chocolate milkshakes in bars. I just like to have fun with this. Now, again, Four Seasons, anticipate your client's needs, your customer, they get that. And I'm not going to mention any hotels that don't really handle this really well on an ongoing basis, Delta, but some of the hotels that I didn't say that, but sometimes that just happens. But you test it out, and I've become the milkshake man at a few hotels. They know when I'm coming now, so I actually get. They'll say, "Is it chocolate or do you want a strawberry milkshake this time?" So it gets pretty good, but. Have a lot of fun with it. It's a few years ago we were down at a Sandals, and this particular Sandals is in Exuma, which is just south of Nassau in the Bahamas. And you can fly directly in there. It used to be a Four Seasons resort. It's a spectacular resort. I mean, great golf course, great beach, great everything, great service. They just get it. And we were down there our first morning, and they have their version. It's in my book, this whole story. They don't like me to call it their Starbucks, but they have their version of Starbucks. It's actually called Café de Paris. So I call it Café de Paris, but it's open 24/7. It's pure decadence. I mean, you can go get any pastries, any drinks you want, and it's fantastic. So the first morning we were there, we get up pretty early. We're both golfers. We like to be first out on the course. So I'm at the Café de Paris, their Starbucks, and I walk in and there's three girls standing there, and the one in the middle, her name's Christiane, and Christiane's just lighting up the room. She's fantastic. She's just like really, really good energy. And I walk in, I said, I'd like a latte for my wife. And she said, great, we'll make you a really great latte. And they said, what would you like? And I said, well, I'm not a big coffee drinker, but I like chocolate milkshakes. And she said, would you like a chocolate milkshake? And I said, I don't normally do them at 6 in the morning. And she looked at me, she said, well, why don't you come back at lunchtime? And we'll make you the best milkshake you've ever had. And I go, that sounds like a deal. I'll be back at lunchtime. So I come back at 12 o'clock, right around lunchtime. I walk in, and same three girls standing there. Christiane's in the middle. I walk in and she goes, the milkshake man. Do you want your chocolate milkshake now? And I said, as a matter of fact, I do. She said, I'm going to make you an incredible milkshake. And she looked at me and she said, would you like a banana in your milkshake? I go, yeah, then I can pretend it's somewhat healthy. That would be good. That would be good because it's not, it's not the healthiest habit in the world. But I said, that would be fantastic. She said, you know what? We don't have any bananas here right now, but I'm going to go get you one. I'm going to come back and I'm going to make you a great milkshake. Now, I don't give people 10 out of 10s on the milkshake, but this came pretty close. She came back. She made an incredible milkshake, 9 out of 10. And she handed me the milkshake, and I took a few sips, and I just went, wow, this is really, really good. Then she blew me away. She blew me away. She looked at me and she said, would you like one every day? I said, as a matter of fact, I would. And it was great. She anticipated. And she's fantastic. She's in the book. She became a bit of a celebrity because I was doing leadership training and development with the resort managers and the leadership team for that resort. She's in the book, and I came back the next year and I said, I told you were going to be in the book. She was in the book. Now, I also know that Sandals has 10,000 employees, and I'm hoping that Butch, who runs it, might buy 10,000 books. So it's a bit of a strategy, right? It's all about strategy. So they bought a whole bunch of books. They didn't buy 10,000. Sandals is the largest employer on Jamaica. I don't know if people knew that, but it's fantastic. I mean, they started years and years ago in the refrigeration business, and then they got into the resort business, and they get it. They're really good. They anticipate. They know what it takes to really please the customer. John Wooden is a famous coach Died a few years ago, but died at the age, had a great life. I think of about 97, 98. Great coach, basketball coach. So basketball coach for UCLA Bruins, so college basketball. Now John Wooden, they said, was named by ESPN as the greatest coach of the last century. And when people name somebody a great coach, don't people want to know why? What's your magic formula? How do you make a difference? I mean, he was able to take a team, and by the way, it's not the same team, it's not the same players every year, because there's new recruits, new students coming in, so the team is changing up. Like everybody in this room, our teams change up from time to time, right? So you have to be able to, how do you keep your team up there? How do you take your A team, your B team to an A team? How do you maintain an A team? Well, that's what he was able to do. And when John Wooden was asked, how have you had so much success? And he always talked about preparation. Preparation, preparation, preparation. And that's what it's all about. You got to prepare. You want to execute? Preparation equals execution. You want to be comfortable? Prepare. Again and again and again. You see, he knew with his teams that everybody has, all the coaches for the universities have the same amount of team or same amount of time to get their teams ready for the upcoming season. And it's 21 weeks. And with him, it's 21 weeks, 5 days a week, 2 hours per day. He knew that he had 12,600 minutes to get the team ready. And by the way, he had every minute planned. Every minute planned. And he did it year after year. Just, when you think about it, though, for the first 15 years, well, he was the head coach. They didn't win national championships. But finally, the formula kicked in. And over a 12-year span, they won 10 national championships. That's unprecedented. How do you do that? Well, you have a pretty great formula. His formula was all about the fundamentals. And when John Wooden was asked, what do you mean by the fundamentals? He says, we practice really, really hard. Okay, well, what does that look like? Well, when they first come out, the students first come out and they're first practicing, I get them to stand at the foul line, shoot a few shots. Okay, I can do that. Do 500. Okay, come on over here. Take a few shots from here. I can do that. Do 500. Okay. Come up here. Do a few layups. Great. Do 500. Every day. Every day. Day after day, week after week. Practice, practice fundamentals. And after a few weeks, the players would kind of say, hey, we're pretty good, and we practice harder than anybody else. I mean, come on. Do we have to keep doing this? And he says, of course you do. And they go, why? They go, it's pretty simple. When there's 3 seconds left and the national championship's on the line, boom, swish, basket, game, win. That's what it's all about. That's what it's all about in life too. How do you get to that point? Because the only person you're competing with, really, is you. How do you get your game to that level? And we know people will ask us certain questions and your inside voice is going, oh, I love it. This is a great question. I know the answer to that. This is cool. Why? Because you've rehearsed it, you've prepared, you know the fundamentals, you've done it again and again and again. How do you take your game to that level? How do you bring yourself to that level? Practice, preparation. Does practice make perfect? Practice make perfect? 98%, 3/4 guaranteed. You're pretty right. Practice makes permanent. Practice makes permanent. You ask Tiger Woods, you ask Michael Jordan, some of the greats, does practice make perfect? No. Perfect practice makes perfect. The best are still figuring out ways how to get better. I mean, if you just keep practicing the same thing, you may just get better at your bad habits. What are the right things? It's not just practice, it's practicing the right things. And then it's executing on an ongoing basis. I was very fortunate that after university, I played at York University. I played varsity hockey, and then I played junior hockey, played Canadian junior nationals, and then I went over to Europe for a few years, and I played professional hockey over there. It was a great way to see Europe, so I managed it. I put the project out there, figured it all out, managed it through, figured out from that perspective, but I went over to Europe, spent a couple of years. I played in Holland and I played in Germany. And when I was in Holland, and at that point in time, the Dutch were in the A pool, meaning they were playing the top teams in the world. This is a long time ago. Okay, they're not there. They're very good in soccer or football, but hockey isn't their forte. But at that point in time, they had a better hockey program than the Germans did in a lot of the other countries. But one of the cool things while I was there is we got to play the Russian, the Red Army team. And people can say what they want. This is early 80s. And we're Canadians. We're Canadians. We're big on our hockey, aren't we? We were talking earlier, you know, from Montreal. I said, okay, but you've been in Toronto for 24 years. I said, Maple Leafs or the Habs? And he just goes, that's interesting, but my whole family's the Habs, right? But we've got hockey in our veins. There's no doubt about it. So when I say that the Russians at that point in time were probably the best team on the planet, they were. They're fantastic. So we had a chance to play them. And before we were playing them, a few days before we played them, we went and watched them practice. And they were practicing in an arena close to us. It was just outside Amsterdam. And we were playing out of Amsterdam. This is pretty cool. I was 24 years old. I landed in Holland, was playing professional hockey there. And the first thing I found out, they said, we've got a couple of big sponsors. I said, well, who are the sponsors? And they said, Friesland Dairy. And then they said, and Heineken. And I went, oh, gee, that's going to be tough. So what do we have to do for Heineken? And they said, well, you're going to have to promote beer. You're going to have to drink a little beer. That was really tough as a 24-year-old, I'll tell you. So really, if people say, what did you do over there? I go, hockey and beer, beer and hockey sort of thing. But so we went and we're watching the Russians practice. And they were having a 5-hour practice in skates, which is really hard to do. And when you're playing at that level, one of the issues you have is your feet in skates. Because, you know, it just skates and your feet don't love each other if you're in skates for a long period of time. 5-hour practice. Never heard of one of those. So we stayed for about an hour and a half, and we watched them. And all they did was practice one play. One play. So we're all joking. We're going, by the way, our goal against the Russians was to keep them to under 10 goals. Now, that's an interesting goal, right? We weren't sort of saying, okay, we're going to be the U.S., this is going to be a miracle on ice here. We weren't looking for, maybe we were looking for miracles, but it was an interesting situation. So we're all talking to each other going, hey, they're practicing this play. This is their big play tomorrow when they're playing us. We got them. We got them. The next day, they scored 5 goals on that play. We watched them for an hour and a half with that play. We knew exactly what they were going to do. They scored 5 goals. Now, it was a respectable game. They beat us 9-5, but I think they probably let up a little bit towards the end. They were just poetry on ice. They were poetry. We could skate with them. We could shoot with them. We certainly were probably more physical than them. But we didn't have the connection of team. We didn't have, as a team, they were absolutely incredible. I mean, it was amazing. And here's the real power. The real power is it doesn't matter that we watched them the previous day and we knew exactly what they were going to do. Because again, it's a great life lesson. Think about it from this perspective. We could have sat and watched them for 5 months. The difference is they executed flawlessly. You see, if you can bring your game up, if you can bring you up, if you can bring your company up, whatever you're doing to a certain level, nobody can compete with you. They can't. If you bring your game up, they just executed at a different level. They practiced, they prepared. Preparation equals execution. And it's all about execution. Is it not? You guys can project manage and all this stuff, then you got to execute. You got to execute on what you've put out there. And I'll leave you with this, and it's pretty simple. Life is like an echo. It's like an echo. What you send out comes back. Let me build on that a bit too. If you send it out in abundance, it comes back in abundance. Send it out, send it out, send it out. Watch the power. And it's the three things I talked about before. It starts with you. It's all about you. You've got to get really good at you. Get comfortable. It's not selfish. It's the greatest gift you can give to you, to your family, to your career, to your friends. Get really good at you. Take your game to the next level. You can't do it alone. You can't do it alone. By the way, it's in your DNA. We're pack animals. Connect. It's about we. Go from me to we. And then give. Give. It's an attitude. I guarantee this. It's not 98.75% guarantee. I'll guarantee this 100%. Give, 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 and then watch it come back. I'm going to hang around for a few minutes, and I'm happy to take some questions right now if you want. People are welcome. I'm going to sign some books. You can pick it up today. $20 a book, cash. Some people have already hit me before and said, can I get the early hit? But happy to personalize for anybody who wants it. It's a lot about what I talked about today. You, net giving, influence, the whole power. G7 and G8 were already taken, and everybody's sick of G20, so I went with G3. But thank you I'll take some questions, yeah.
So what does G3 stand for?
G3 is give, give, and give. So G to the power of 3, and the 3 are you. So I talked about it. It's right on the cover of the book there, the gift of you. How do you get good at you? And the gift of influence, which is leadership. That's leadership. How do you influence people? And then part 3, not just networking, it's net giving. Those are the 3 Gs. Any questions? Does anybody have any questions? I know you have a long day, so it's, but we'll have some fun with this. Anybody else? Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
For your book, is an e-version available?
Yes, there is an e-version of my book available, so you can go to Amazon. And my first book is Tapping the Iceberg. You can get hard copy or e-version through Chapters or Amazon. Okay, yeah. It's a little shorter. They're bite-sized pieces. They're easy. So if you want to go e-version, go e-version. Anybody else? Yeah.
So when you talk about you,
Yeah.
you could go to a level where it becomes you come across as being selfish.
Right.
So how do you draw that balance whereby it's about you, but it's about we
Right.
at the end of the day?
Right. When I talk about you, I'm kind of talking about the side of honing you, preparation, getting really, really good at you, confidence. There's a thin line between confidence and arrogance, right? And a lot of people will say, boy, that's just pure you. That's pure me. And that's the person when they're talking all the time, they say I a lot. They don't really say we enough. And I think as a leader, you got to be careful too. We's a better word than I. There's no doubt about it. And you can go to certain leaders, I'm not going to mention them at this point in time, but there's certain leaders, you can look at their speeches, and their speeches are all I. And then there are leaders where you see them, and their speeches, there's some I, because it's not a bad thing, it's we. The power of you is just, if you get really, really good at you, it will be confidence. Arrogance arrogance is just insecurity. If people have to tell you how great they are at what they do or what they're all about, that's just insecurity. So, and a lot of people will do that. So here's the thing too, is if you go into situations with other people, how can I help you? How can I make a difference for you? And people, maybe they'll believe you, maybe they won't. You can pretty well, when you're talking to somebody, your inside voice is going to go, that person's a giver or they're a taker. We have time for the givers. The takers, inside voice, we're pretty polite as Canadians. We're not going to say, hey, you know what, you're a taker, no way. we're going to just say, okay, yeah, I'll get back to you on that one. Not. But, at some point in time. So the you is, how do you build your game? How do you prepare? How do you get really good at you? That will just be pure confidence from that standpoint. The arrogance side is what it is. There's an evil wolf and there's a good wolf in all of us. It's just how often the good wolf overtakes, or you use that side verse, and that's about the whole thing of some people are thinking scarcity, some people think abundance. But the more people you help, and it's genuine, you and I both know when somebody's being genuine or not. That's how you got to judge it. So when I talk about the you, take care of you, it's not selfish. It's not selfish. If you can bring your best game to the table, don't you think that's a good thing to do? I'm not saying you don't help others. Of course you do. That's what the whole give philosophy is about. This philosophy it's inherent. It's getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. The generation coming up. This philosophy is what great companies, the companies that grasp this, the cultures that grasp this and fly with this, they're the ones that are going to thrive and survive. And the ones who don't, won't. It's a brilliant philosophy, yeah.
How do you overcome that feeling? This belongs to me. Like, what am I going to get if I give this away?
So you're saying if I give this, what am I going to get? I'm not saying you don't get. I'm just saying you should be making deposits like I talked about before. How do I do this? Boom, boom, boom. And by the way, I'm not saying, hey, you have to get, if you start with what can you do for me, how do you think that's going to go? I know how it's going to go. It's going to be interesting. Now, if it's your boss, it's different, right?
Yeah, you don't give all your trump cards.
Right.
And then stay at his mercy.
Yeah, but it's give and take. And there's a great book by somebody, he's called Adam Grant. It's a book called Give and Take. And it's a fantastic book because people are givers and they're takers. And what he says in his book, which I think is brilliant, is he goes, there's matchers too. And I actually think most people fall into that category. They're giving, but they're expecting something in return. And it's not that they're giving to get something in return. It's just an expectation. That's fine. And my challenge to everybody in this room today too is connect with 2 or 3 people. You can connect with hundreds, okay? But go high, wide, and deep with a few people. Get to know 2 or 3 people who you don't know, who you haven't met before. That would be my challenge for the day. Okay, we're done. Thank you. I'll sign some books. Thank you very much for your time.